Welcome into Inside the Icebox here on the ESPN Houston YouTube channel and ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Today's show is brought to you by Blue Star Tequila, the world's first and only night harvested tequila. You can find it near you at plenty of liquor stores and bars at bluestartequila.com. I'm Joe George on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio, and well, Jeremy and I do a radio show together, so I kicked them off the podcast. Welcome in Sean Mapes to the show.
Yes, the extra hour with Jeremy.
Too much.
That was the breaking point. That was
too
the
much.
breaking point. Maybe it was the breaking point for the Houston Astros. I do feel like a space cowboy getting a call up, perhaps, to join the rotation, at least inside the icebox here.
Well, just like Zach Cole has now come up to the Astros,
Yeah.
We've called up Sean Mapes to try to save the season because, well, the Astros are tied at the top of the AL West. The lead has completely vanished. It was once 7 games for a long time. It was 2.5 games, but the Mariners were losing. Now that's gone. The Rangers are playing well. The Mariners are playing better. And the Astros are struggling. And now I think it's finally the appropriate time to ask this question, Sean. I'll let you go first. Is it time to panic if you're the Astros?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what panic looks like. Is it? I don't know what more buttons they have to press to turn this around. They need to start playing better. But to answer the spirit of the question, yes, I think, at least in my mind, now it would be more surprising if this team did get it together and did go on a run these last 20 days or so of this season and became the AL West champion. Normally, every year, I'm kind of kicking my feet up, not even back in the 17, 18, 19 super team days, even more recently in 22, 23, 24, you always have the kind of arrogance that this team has earned, me as a fan to have the arrogance that things will turn out all right. This year, just whether it's injuries, whether it's just poor play, I just don't feel it. This is panic button time in my mind.
Yeah, it's flipped in a way from last year, right? Last year, early in the season, you play really poorly. You're down 10 games in the division. In a record amount of time, you make up for it, and then you really don't look back. It got a little dicey there at the end, but the Astros were able to separate themselves. This year, you've got this 7-game lead, and it just kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And the injuries, just as you said, they just keep piling up. There's a lot we're going to talk about today with the injuries and everything that's going on with this roster, but it's just this team can't catch a break. Every time guys come back, someone else right now from the bullpen, it feels like, goes down. And it's just been getting harder and harder. Your best players are not playing at their best outside of Yordan Alvarez. It's all bad. And it's funny, Jeremy and I, we've been doing this show, and we've been talking about, feels like this season was teetering on World Series or missed the playoffs. And now that feels like in just a couple days that has gone away. Like the idea of making the playoffs seems a little far-fetched right now because of the way the Rangers and the Mariners are playing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems far-fetched if nothing changes. You do need, right now, the Astros can maintain this level of play, but you need collapses from Seattle and Texas. Ultimately, if this team is going to win the division, is going to make the playoffs, is going to make any noise whatsoever in the playoffs, they need to change the way that they're playing right now. Right now, a lot of it is injuries, but looking at this lineup, other than Isaac Paredes, this lineup's healthy. This lineup is the lineup that you thought you were going to roll into the season with, plus Carlos Correa, plus Jesus Sanchez. Mm-hmm. So, to me, the biggest indictment of this team in August and September is that, for the most part, this team doesn't have a part of the game that they can hang their hat on. That every day going into the stadium, you think, we're going to get a dominant pitching performance. We're going to get a dominant starting pitching performance. You don't really get that. 2 days of the week, you get that. When Hunter Brown and when Jason Alexander starts.
Good answer.
That's when you know that you're going to get good starting pitching. The bullpen, since Josh Hader's gone down, you don't have one of the best closers in baseball anymore. You don't have one of the best setup men in baseball anymore because Brian Abreu is now your closer. And until his last game, what was that, Wednesday night, that was the first kind of, okay, we got this. Calm and easy closing performance from Brian Abreu. And like you said, the bullpen arms are now falling apart. And then you get to the offense and this lineup where you look on paper, this should be the unit that you can hang your hat on if you're the Houston Astros and expect some sort of, baseline of run support for these starters, for the bullpen, and you don't get it. You get these avalanche games where they score 8, they score 11, they put up a big number, but then the other 2 games of the series
Score 1.
They score 1 or 2, and this
Total.
team, yes, this team is not built to win those games right now.
Yeah, I think when you look at some of just the raw numbers of the teams that are going to make the playoffs this year, the Astros have the lowest amount of runs scored amongst all teams that are currently in the playoffs, National League and American League. The Padres, they only have 4 more runs this season, but the difference is then when you look at the differential, the Astros, it is dramatic, Sean, what you're seeing. The next lowest is going to be a plus 49 on the season. The Astros are plus 13 run differential this season. That's...
Yeah. A 500 team.
Yeah, that's what they are. And right now, they've been a below 500 team basically for 2 months.
Yeah.
And it is to the point where the safer bet, honestly, and I don't know what the odds are. Maybe as you're talking next, I'll look. But probably the better bet is that the Astros are going to miss the playoffs. And I don't think it's not a guarantee, but the way they're playing, and ultimately, I think by the time next Thursday or Friday when we record this podcast again, we will know if the Astros are going to make the playoffs. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week against the Texas Rangers. I think season's on the line. I think if you lose 2 out of 3, if you get swept by the Rangers, they're going to then be able to pass you.
Yeah.
That to me feels like where it's going to really come down to that series, and if you're going to then separate yourself from at least the Rangers. Forget the Mariners. At this point, the Rangers are the more important team because you still play them this year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The Rangers series almost feels more important just because that seems like a team that's right now more your caliber. It feels like right now, and it seems like, especially with the winning streak they got going on, that the Mariners are not head and shoulders, but they're another level above the Astros right now. How they're playing right now, the Astros are not a better team than the Seattle Mariners. So something is obviously going to have to change there. I think that, sitting here and hoping that the Mariners fall apart, the Mariners do what the Mariners have always done. Sure, but that's not what you want to hope on. You want to be playing your best ball right now, and I can't see how you would have any sort of optimism that that's coming for the Astros because, like you said, since the week before the All-Star break, this is what the Astros have done. This is now, for a large part of the season, who they are. Right now, June is the blip. June is the blip of looking like a dominant team, and for part of that, despite a lot of injuries. Right now, this looks like a team where the injuries have caught up to them.
Yeah, you look at the odds right now. The Mariners are minus 125 to win the division. The Astros are plus 125. The Rangers are plus 1,000. If I was a betting man, they're only 2 games back of the Mariners and the Astros. How do you not?
Yeah.
If I was going to bet on the Rangers, I'm not going to. This is an Astros podcast. But if I was going to, I would be betting on the Rangers. That value at plus 1,000, 2 games back, is crazy.
Yeah.
The Astros, though, still, at least according to this sports book, are still a minus 310 yes to make the playoffs, a plus 250 no. So Vegas, their perspective is still that the Houston Astros are going to make the playoffs. I can't feel confident in saying that right now just because of the way that they're playing. Outside of Yordan Alvarez, Carlos Correa, I would say Yainer Diaz is playing much better as of late, offensively and defensively. From your lineup, you're just not getting enough. You're not getting enough from Pena or Myers or specifically Altuve. There are a lot of holes in this lineup and guys that you were banking on being good. And really, Jose Altuve is so bad right now, I don't think there's any belief that he's going to break out of this unless he goes somewhere and starts getting booed.
Yeah. The Rangers fans, it's on you.
Yeah, maybe the best thing for the Astros right now, Sean, is to end up being the last team to make the playoffs. That way they have to go to Seattle to make the playoffs at this point. Don't play at Dyken Park. Play on the road at Seattle. Get booed like crazy. Yeah. Altuve gets going. That might be the only cure for him at this point in the season.
Yeah, right now it's hard to have a lot of faith in Jose Altuve and it's tough because it seems like he's aged right before your eyes. It seems like over the course of this year, it's the Jose Abreu or whoops, that's a Freudian slip. The Jose Altuve
Was it?
that you've been getting. No, it actually was on accident. The Jose Altuve you've been getting. It looks like a guy who's aging out of being a all-star level player. Now, the benefit for the chase that they find themselves in is that you only need them to have a hot streak to get into the playoffs. You only need 3 good weeks of Jose Altuve baseball to turn this all around and make everyone who's doubting him look like idiots. But do I believe that's going to happen? I don't. I can't see how you do. And to me, it seems more like we're going to have a conversation either. I guess we could have it today, but it seems like we might have the conversation going into next season of where does Jose Altuve bat in this lineup? Because I'm not sure putting him in the top 3 is going to be sustainable for much longer.
It does. Yeah, we can get right into it because it does make you wonder. Like when you think about the construction of this team next year, okay? Christian Walker, Jose Altuve. You got 2 guys in your lineup that are going to make a lot of money that you don't feel really great about right now with the way that they're playing at their age. Jose Altuve is under contract through 2029. Christian Walker, less than that, obviously, but you've got 2 questions there. And then you've got Correa under contract now. You've obviously got Yordan Alvarez back. But then you've got Paredes, who still has a chance to be on this team this year. I don't even know how that he factors into the roster this season if it were to happen at this point, because they don't clearly want Jose Altuve at second base. He's going to have to be your second baseman. If Paredes plays this year, he's your DH.
Yeah.
But next year, Altuve, let's assume everyone's healthy. Alvarez is in front of him. Myers is in front of him. Pena's in front of him. Cam Smith is probably in front of him if he gets going. He's been really struggling.
Yeah. I don't want to.
Maybe not Cam Smith.
Yeah.
Carlos Correa is in front of him.
Yeah.
Paredes is in front of him. Maybe Yiner's in front of him, depending on the day.
Walker and Yiner feel like they're more streaky and they net out to about Altuve level. And so I don't know how much longer, especially if you're not going to be the super team Astros who can play with a little, not maximize every little bit of their lineup or maximize every little bit of their team because they're so head and shoulders more talented than the rest of the division and the rest of the league, that they can, give Altuve the fan favorite treatment of putting him in the top 3 of the lineup. This is a team that's been in a division race since they've won the World Series. Every regular season, it's come down to the wire of whether this team's going to win the AL West, and it's gonna be whether they win the AL West with 88 wins, with 90 wins. This is not the top of the league that we're talking about. This is a team that in many other divisions would be in a wild card race. So I think that you have to have the very serious conversation about where do we put this guy in the lineup to where you give yourself a chance to win. Because like you said, you walk down the guys, especially when Paredes comes back either late this year or next year, I think you got to roll with Pena, Paredes, Yordan. Mm-hmm. That has to be your top 3.
Yeah, and then I think Correa's for sure a shoo-in at 4, and then
that's when you can talk to me about Altuve. The respect, the thank you for your service spot is not you're going to bat leadoff or second or third. It's out of respect we'll bet you 5th.
And we're not. I don't think we're at this point just yet.
Yes,
but there is some serious Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols vibes right now with the way Jose Altuve. I don't even think not even next season. But you think about the length of this contract, the way he's falling apart, the way he's hitting, the way it's been down obviously the last couple of years, but he's been good enough. And again, he can still turn it on at any given moment and be the Jose Altuve that we all know and love and believe in. But the vibe around Jose Altuve is bad. I think it's fair for people to start to be concerned about his contract. And I don't think it's just a troll job by Jeremy Branham or anyone else. I think there should be some legitimate concern that at this age, especially when, now I don't know, Jeremy would push back against me every time I'd say this, but especially if this contract ends up bleeding into 2030 because there's no baseball in 2027. If you're talking about Jose Altuve takes a year off of baseball because there's a lockout, or even 6 months of baseball, it makes this even more complicated for what his future is. So, the Astros, if they're going to make a run, it starts with Jose Altuve. Pena, Myers, some of these other guys that have been struggling, Yiner, Christian Walker, Yeah, you can I think you can overcome some of that, but it's the importance of Jose Altuve hitting fourth in the lineup and behind Correa and Alvarez that you need him to get going to really make a run at this thing.
Yeah, and especially him being Jose Altuve, which is kind of the umbrella over all of this conversation, is that you're talking about the greatest Astro of all time, where you don't want to be having this conversation, but this is the point of Guy's career, and this is really the first time we've seen an Astro have to go through this, of a golden era Astro being past his prime. Maybe you want to say Justin Verlander last year, but that was really half of a season, and it's easy to kind of just hide a starting pitcher. He gets his turn. Every once in a while, they would skip a start, and you kind of keep it moving. This is a guy who, if he's on your team, he's on your payroll, he's got to be in the lineup, and he's got to be somewhere in the lineup that's not a detriment to you winning these games.
All right, if the Astros miss the playoffs, is it a season failure, or do they get some kind of pass because of the injuries?
I think it is a failure, but it's a failure with an explanation, and an explanation that you can reasonably put on the injuries that this team has faced. However, there's no denying that it would be a failure.
Yeah,
I mean, they haven't. The last time a full season has been played in baseball and they didn't win the division was 2016. That is coming up on a decade ago of winning this division every time you take the field in a full season.
I would almost view this as like a D+ season, but because the teacher is grading you on a curve, the injuries, you end up going up to a C-. Like that's where like you still failed the class, but like you got like a little bit of a boost just because of all the injuries that happened. And like there's questions about Dana Brown and his approach, but and what's happened in the offseason, at the deadline, everything. But the reality is like you've lost multiple starting pitchers for this season, multiple starting pitchers for next season probably already. I don't know why you're banking on Lance McCullers, but like he seemed to be part of their plan. Luis Garcia gave you a start in an inning and 2/3. And then your bullpen has just really fallen apart with injuries, and it's going to leave leaves a lot more questions about not just this year, but the roster for next season. Framber Valdez is gone. And really, where the Astros kind of go from here, I think it's going to be really interesting because they have too many like fourth and fifth guys in the rotation, but then you got this surplus of players on your infield as well. Like, and that's where it goes back to the Jose Altuve thing is you're going to have to make some tough decisions. Like, are you going to move on from Isaac Paredes this offseason because you had to acquire Carlos Correa? Well, if you don't believe in Jose Altuve as much anymore, which I think is pretty clear at this point the Astros haven't. They put him from second base to left field. They were nice and said that was his idea. They moved him down from the leadoff spot. They were nice enough to say that was his idea. And then they moved him below Carlos Correa, and I'm sure they will pretend like that was his idea as well. In reality, they've got this giant just like cluster of players, and if Jose Altuve is going to be this bad, then I don't really know where they go from here. So when you think about this season, the future seasons, this season's a failure. Sure.
Yeah, and there's almost a little bit of, like you said, like the teachers being nice to you and like, hey, we understand the circumstances of this failure. You know what? Let's give you so you'll have to take summer school. You'll have to do a little bit of extra credit, and that extra credit is like you said, figuring out this infield, figuring out the rotation. And I think most of all, what the hell's going on with these injuries? Why is the not just the rate of injuries happening, but the mismanagement at all turns when it comes to returning back to the field? Yep. If you think about it, how many guys have had either aborted rehabs or failed rehabs or extended absences or absences that then extend past the initial timetable? I mean, this season right now, you could almost, if you want to be very nice to the Houston Astros, you can pin this all on the fact that they missed Yordan Alvarez for 100 games.
But what's crazy is that, like, as they're falling apart, Yordan Alvarez has been on the lineup.
Yes.
Like he's been the best player, honestly, one of the best players in baseball since he came back from injury. Like he's carrying his weight. It's not on him. Like,
but the absence of him. If you want to be as nice as possible, it is. If the Yordan Alvarez mystery hand injury and the lack of imaging, and then the imaging again, and then 60% healed, but we're not having him swing a bat for 2 months after that. If you want to just say, That's the one thing that you change. And if you have that, we're talking about a team that is probably still in the division race, but is at least has some breathing room in this race and is leading this race.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's investigate why that happened. Let's investigate why Jake Myers took center field and couldn't make it past first pitch. Why did that happen? What's happening here? What's happening with the Luis Garcia rehab and the rehab, and then when he gets out there, he only has a start and an inning left in his arm. What's going on with the Christian Javier rehab? Why did that take extra month or two than was expected? These are the questions that need to be answered. Honestly, for me, more than the infield question, because the infield question is at least the problem of you have too many starting caliber baseball players. You have too many good options in the infield. This is a problem that they don't have the margin of error that they used to have to overcome this stuff. They have to get out of their own way when it comes to the medical stuff.
And it's not like it's really new. I mean, before James Click got fired, basically, he's told Chandler and The Athletic that the Houston Astros were going to do a review of their return to play protocols. And then he was gone. And Dana Brown came in. And these issues have been a problem since James Click was here. And I don't quite understand how Jim Crane can be willing to spend the amount of money he spends and also be okay with the amount of money he's paying players to not play for the Houston Astros. Like, I don't know, like, contractually with, like, Houston Methodist, and it's not all their fault, or the doctors on the staff. Like, there's going to be a mix and match of things. Like, but you can't be happy with this as the owner of a baseball team to see millions and millions and millions of dollars just sitting on the sidelines and not being there to sell tickets and sell jerseys. And it feels like something should have changed, but I think we said this last year, Sean. We're like, it's like you want to see the medical staff get fired. And I hate to ask for people to lose their job, but we would treat anyone else like this. If this was, like, we're going to talk about Dana Brown and Joe Espada here in a couple minutes, but like, if this was any other facet of a Major League Baseball team, we would be demanding these people get fired. And I think fans are there. And if I'm Jim Crane, I'm like, how can you be okay with what's happening with your baseball team? Like, it would seem illogical to be like, yeah, it's not their fault. Well, like, it has to be someone's fault. Like, this isn't happening across baseball. Like, yeah, we're seeing Kyle Tucker in Chicago have some weird stuff with 2 injuries this year, where, like, it's being mismanaged a little bit. But, like, it's every Astros player is having major issues and having a hard time getting back on the field. Luis Garcia was gone for 2 years. I was in Chicago when Lance McCullers got hurt against the White Sox. It took him years to get back on the mound on a regular basis. And now he stinks. Like, I just don't know how you could be a business person and be like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. It is just the investment that you're putting into these guys. You're putting into tens of millions of dollars every year into Lance McCullers. He didn't play forever. I thought you were going to say I was in Chicago, like, still in high school when Lance McCullers first got hurt. You got Yordan Alvarez, who you're putting in $20 million, over $20 million per year in. And like I said, he missed a large chunk of the season. Christian Javier, you have a long commitment to. Yeah, all these guys, and then, like you said, if you give any of these guys long enough time on the Astros, chances are they'll have some sort of debilitating injury that it takes way too long for them to come back from. So, yeah, if I don't see how you would risk the tens of millions of dollars it takes to acquire and keep the amount of baseball talent that you have. And a lot of these guys, the guys that we're most mad at, are very talented baseball players that deserve the contracts that they're getting when they're healthy. To me, just the dollars and cents of it, of whatever you're paying, I don't even want to pick on Lance McCullers. I'll just say Yordan Alvarez or Isaac Paredes or Jake Myers, whatever you're paying Jake Myers, which is, compared to a lot of these guys, not that much. It costs way less money to fix the medical issues. It is an audit. It is, whether it is a change of medical staff personnel, all of that. You add it all together, it is less than what you're paying one baseball player for one season of Major League Ball. So I don't see how this has already been a problem for as long as it's been a problem. I cannot see a world where Jim Crane, who I believe is a competent owner and a good businessman, continues to let this be a problem.
Yeah, Jake Meyer's making $2.3 million this season. There's no chance the medical staff makes $2.3 million collectively.
Yeah.
With however, you could have probably 15 guys and gals on your staff, and they might not make $1 million, honestly, for
and if they do, it's another problem of why these guys are getting paid this much, and you're the team in baseball that can't get a guy back on the field.
How do you think this could get extreme if the Astros miss the playoffs? I think we're seeing fans start to call for Joe Espada. We're seeing fans start to call for Dana Brown. I don't think Dana Brown is in jeopardy. I think he's done a good job adding to this team. In theory, he's put together the right roster. They're finding guys, bullpen arms that make no sense that come and are producing before they get hurt. The Josh Hader deal, while he's hurt, yes, is going to be a good deal for the Astros, I think, over the 5 years, assuming this injury is not something that, kind of lingers over time. The moves he made this offseason, Paredes, Cam Smith, Wisniewski, even though he's hurt, one of the guys that's hurt. Bringing Carlos Correa back, I don't love the Jesus Sanchez move, but you gave up nothing for him.
Yeah.
You gave up nothing for him. He's made the right moves. Joe Espada, I think, is a different conversation. There was some stuff about Joe Espada losing the locker room last year, losing the clubhouse last year. That was out there, and people wondering. Joe Espada has been here for a very long time. He is not a Dana Brown guy. He was here. I do think if the Astros miss the playoffs, I do think Joe Espada is on the hot seat. I do think we could see the Houston Astros go in a different direction with manager, even though I don't think it you bring in a new manager, you go to the World Series. No, I don't think that's the case. But I do think it's on the table that Dana Brown would be given the green light to bring in a manager of his own choosing versus having Joe Espada still here.
Yeah, because to me, most of the job of the MLB manager in today's day and age is the clubhouse stuff. That is the job. That is the domain of your manager. Really, the personnel, that's Dana Brown. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, the deployment of the personnel, whether it's guys' roles, where they bat in the lineup construction, that is the analytics and front office staff that send that down. Think of A.J. Hinch sitting in the dugout looking at the binder every time a pitching change needs to be made. That is how baseball is played in today's game. So for me, if you take all those responsibilities away from the manager, what's left other than keeping the group together? Mm-hmm. And I think he's done, on the outside looking in, seems like he's done a good job the last 2 years of getting off to a rough start last year, keeping the team together, making the run to eventually win the division. This year, especially in the month of June. Month of June, it looked like he was the manager of the year. Mm-hmm. Now it looks a little bit less, but even still, like we talked about with the season being a failure or not, the injuries do play a factor in the fact that he kept this team together really for as long as he did with the injuries that they faced. I think that should give him enough benefit of the doubt to where you're not calling for his job. Now, the fans will call for his job. That is just your job as a fan, is to call for your manager's job when you have a disappointing season. But I don't know if it tips the scales so far in the he has to get fired scenario, because I don't know if he has fully lost this locker room.
Yeah, I don't think he has to get fired. I just think that if they miss the playoffs, that the conversation, the door will be, I think, a little more open.
Yes.
From Jim Crane to say, hey, we can find your guy. We like Joe, but obviously, you've lost a 2-game wild card round. And then if you miss the playoffs, to me, that looks like a window that is closed instead of always being open just based on results. The injuries are a huge factor into that. But I just think it opens the idea.
Yeah, and if you were to make this shakeup, if you let's just say, fast forward a month, they lose the division, they either lose in the wild card round again or don't even make a wild card. 'Cause that's still on the table. They don't even make the wild card. But and you make the decision, there has to be a shakeup. I agree with you. Dana Brown should be safe. I think that major personnel shakeups doesn't make any sense. Window's always open when Jim Crane's the owner. Jim Crane said that. I don't think that this is a big sell-off or some sort of major churn with the makeup of this roster. You look around, Joe Espada would be the change to make if you decide a change on the field has to be made.
All right, we're going to talk about something you just said, because I have it on my list of things to discuss on the show. But first, let's take a quick break here. Let's hear from our friends at Blue Star Tequila so they can teach you what night harvesting is all about.
In the highlands of Jalisco, as the fierce heat of day fades into dusk, the sun dips below the horizon, and our jimadores begin their work. Harvesting our precious agave azul beneath the glow of stars, while the night air is cool and calm. Away from the harsh heat of the sun, we protect our agave's freshness, locking in essential natural properties and sweetness, and preserving its unique flavor profile. This world-first practice has been warmly embraced by our jimadores, who relish the soothing embrace of evening's cool air as they work beneath the moonlight. 100% agave azul, night harvested, unfiltered, and additive-free. We invite you to taste the Blue Star difference.
All right, Sean, something you just said there before we went to break that I was actually thinking about in my mind about the Astros in this offseason if you missed the playoffs. And I kind of said it there as well, but you lost a 2-game wild card series to the Tigers last year. It was really non-competitive. You then this year, if you miss the playoffs or losing the wild card round again, let's say it's the same exact scenario, 2 games and you're out. But either way, from a far away view, I would look at the house the Astros are in and say the door's closed, the window's closed. I'm like, that doesn't look like a team that's competing for the World Series anymore. You know, back-to-back years, losing a wild card round or losing a wild card round and miss the playoffs. So that's where I know Jim Crane has said, as long as I'm here, the window's always open. But we just talked about the injuries and all the money he paid Jose Abreu to go away and all the money he might have to pay Christian Walker to go away and maybe a really bad Jose Altuve contract in which you're not going to move on from him. Yeah. You're going to eat that contract as long as he's a member of the Houston Astros or until he essentially retires. I do wonder for Jim Crane if he says maybe the window can't always be open in the way that it is currently constructed, which is where, yes, the Astros fans want him to spend money like the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Mets or the Padres, but I wonder if he does want to pivot away from what he said and retract that statement and say the window will open again, but to do so, we're going to have to do what we did with Kyle Tucker to maybe a more extreme example. Maybe there is a Hunter Brown and Jeremy Pena conversation that's uncomfortable this offseason. Maybe there's another Carlos Correa conversation this offseason that has to be comfortable. I just wonder, it's from a business perspective and a baseball perspective, if it's not working, it looks like right now, and where, again, they could still make a huge run this year, and this might be the dumbest thing I've ever said, but like, I'm assuming right now it's not going to. I just wonder if Jim Crane will go to Dana Brown and be like, hey man, maybe we should do what you did with Tucker, with like all of the roster except for Jose Altuve, and really reset this thing and start to try to build out a new dynasty with new prospects to where we're focusing on the Space Cowboys, not the Astros.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a pivot from Jim Crane saying the window's always open when I'm here, because it would be firmly shutting the window and then saying, oh, window opens back up in 2028, 2029, yeah. whenever that is, whenever the next Cam Smith generation of guys you got from these hypothetical trades where you're trading away your star come back. I can't say it's completely out of the realm of possibility, because while Jim Crane is the guy who said the window's always open when I'm here, he's also the guy that oversaw the 2011, 12, 13, 14 Astros.
And was clearly okay with it.
Yeah, no, he handed the keys to Jeff Luhnow and those guys, and he said, do whatever you have to do to build a dominant team. Well, nothing you do matters for 3 years as long as we're heading in the right direction. I don't know. I was going to say I don't know. They definitely don't need that level of teardown.
I agree.
Because the team in 2011 hadn't made the playoffs since 2005. So it was a much different level of mediocrity. It was actually worse than me. It was just straight up a bad baseball team for 5 years before the ultimate decision got made. So I don't know if you need to go that far. I don't know if you need to do everything that you said, move all the guys. They're not all Kyle Tucker. They're not all going to get you that level of return. But I could see a pivot. I mean, some of it would just be like, hey, listen, we got to open up a spot on the infield. So there might be a pivot with one of these infielders. There might be a pivot with Hunter Brown, like you said. I don't know about this offseason, but I would say before his contract expires, Hunter Brown would be a Kyle Tucker candidate.
Yes.
I think Jeremy Pena might be a Kyle Tucker candidate in the near future. I don't know if that's a this offseason thing quite yet because it is such an extreme measure, but there is a little bit of the Dana Brown, the sell of Dana Brown being, hey, he's going to build this farm system. He built the Atlanta Braves farm system. He can do that with a team that for 5 years has been perennially 28, 29, 30 in the farm system rankings among baseball. There could be a, hey, let's really not just hand the keys to him, but really give him a nice car to drive when it comes to prospect talent that he can help flourish and again eventually open up a new window.
Yeah, I don't think they would trade everyone because you're not going to trade Carlos Correa basically because
that'd be
what are you going to get for him honestly?
That and also the grand opening, grand closing
fast.
aspect of trading.
Yeah.
Carlos is back.
Yeah.
See you later, Carlos.
If you were going to do a soft reset, I do think you could look at this team and say, okay, next year the Houston Astros are going to roll out an infield with Yainer Diaz, Christian Walker, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa at shortstop, and Isaac Paredes at third base, and you're trading away a Jeremy Pena if you wanted to. I'm not suggesting they should, but if they wanted to do a reset, specifically because of what's happening in the rotation, maybe moving on from Hunter Brown and Pena, maybe it is a year early to be having this conversation, but if they did go into this offseason, hey, we're going to fix our problems and still stay competitive. If you rolled out that infield with Cam Smith in right field and Jake Myers in center field and Yordan Alvarez as your DH and Jesus Sanchez in left field, some combination of that, but you're using Pena and Hunter Brown to go from one good starter in your rotation to maybe 3 good starters in your rotation, and 2 of them are prospects. I do think there is an argument to make that move now. And the other thing with Jim Crane too is he does feel like the kind of owner to me, Sean, where once he sees something work, it kind of opens up his eyes a little bit to where it's they never did the Kyle Tucker thing. They always just let guys walk and they replace them. So he's always yeah, let them walk, we'll replace them.
Yeah.
But now he sees, okay, and Cam Smith has obviously struggled the second half of the season, but there's a dude there that's going to be there for you in right field for a very long time.
Yeah, that is the level of prospect haul you hope to get.
Yeah,
someone who is as promising as Cam Smith.
Yeah, could you get 2 pitchers and a good veteran pitcher if you move Hunter Brown and Pena this offseason and be all right, we're not exactly where we were with Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez, but maybe in 2 years we can be, and thus the window is kind of open still. So I just wonder how he'll handle it, and I wonder if he'll these bad contracts, how many of them he's going to aggressively try to move off, which some of that could be good, but is he going to aggressively move away from Christian Walker?
Yeah, because he's a guy who opened up the checkbook to move off of Jose Abreu, to move off of Rafael Montero. Those guys are actually coming off the books at the end of this year.
About time.
Is he ready to sign himself up for, let me pay for another first baseman that no longer plays for my team? I don't know if he's quite there yet. And there is the possibility of we're looking at a pretty sad season. This almost has to be if they fully miss the playoffs. They lose the division, they miss the playoffs. That way they're not voluntarily blowing up a playoff team. I don't think Jim Crane can quite sell that, or Dana Brown, because he'll be the guy who actually has to talk to us and sell that. I don't think he can actually do that. I think this season has to be a full-on failure for this to even become a conversation, because like you said, if you're gonna move Hunter Brown, you're also losing Framber Valdez.
Yeah, so you have to replace 3 or 4
You're
guys.
It is turning into the who the hell are these guys rotation pretty fast, and you got to hope that one of these hypothetical prospects that you're getting is actually good enough to be a better Cam Smith. Not just be good enough like Cam Smith to make the team, but then to actually excel and actually be a top of the end rotation guy. Because if you're going to sell off the pieces that could get you stuff that are free agents relatively soon, Brown, Pena, let's throw in a Paredes or someone like that. it turns very quickly into a very sad team that you're putting out on the field every day, because it will be only the old guys that cannot get you anything and nobodies that the people aren't exactly going to be rushing to go buy their jerseys.
Yeah.
So I think that it has to come with a loud failure that probably includes not making the playoffs whatsoever to even consider this. And even still, I don't know if Jim Crane is quite there yet to fully press the button on that.
Yeah, because it does. You look at the history again, 2011 versus what's happened from 2017 on. You have these extremes in this franchise. You have one where it's trade everybody, spend no money.
Yes.
Prospect. That's all that matters. We're going to suck. It's going to be okay. We're not even going to worry about being on TV. 2017, it's add Verlander. Then it's add Cole. Then it's add Greinke.
Yeah.
And it's keep adding.
You're a super team.
Yeah.
They have not been, really the last 3 years is the first time they've kind of been a normal baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, 2011, not a normal baseball situation. I mean, it's normal for like 5 teams in the league every year.
But not most teams.
For most teams, it's not normal to be as bad as the Astros were bad. And then have 1 or 2 years, I guess, 15 and 16 of kind of changing gears into a super team like they were in 17, 18, 19. Like that is not normal. And then even 21, 22, they're really good teams.
Yes.
So this is definitely a step down from there, and maybe that makes it an easier pill to swallow for Jim Crane. I don't know if it'll make it an easier pill to swallow for the Astros fan base.
No.
And I think that's ultimately what Jim Crane has to reckon with if he's going to make this decision. Is he can't. Again, it goes back to it has to be a loud failure of you can't willingly volunteer like, hey, Astros fans, see you in a couple years, because Astros fans are one of the fans, like we saw in the early 2010s, will be the, yep, see you later. Like we're not going to the ballpark if you're telling us right now doesn't matter.
Yeah, and again, I don't think you can really do this offseason. I would be surprised if they only traded, if they decide to go this route, start down this path of only doing Brown and only doing Pena. Because I do think it, like, from the view where we're at now, it's like, you probably should have traded Framber. I said that from the beginning. When you traded Tucker, you should have traded Framber. Like, if you're going to do these measures, I think you should go all in or all out. And it should have either keep Tucker for the last year and keep Framber and try to win another World Series, or trade both of them. And if you were going to move on from 2 guys and, like, we're going to do a reset because the last 2 years have been a disaster to the Astros standards, I think it is hard to make the argument to just do those 2 guys. Like, I think it really has to be either, nope, just keep putting money into this thing.
Yeah.
Like, buy out Christian Walker, get another first baseman.
Or, yeah.
Go get Dylan Cease and hope your guys can work their magic. Like, it's either, it's a hard sell for me for the Astros. Like, the way the season's ending and the way last year ended, to go into 2026 and just be like, yeah, we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. Because it's not really working. I really feel like you have to, like, Jim can't just, like, spend money like he doesn't want to spend, which I think he should. Because, like, if he thinks there's not going to be baseball in 2027, then, like, what does it matter? Like,
yeah,
just spend the money now.
Yeah. I think, there definitely will have to be some sort of move made in the infield, whether that is a full salary dump sell-off or a salary dump of Christian Walker, or I would call them more sell-offs of Paredes or Pena, because you're going to get some value for those guys. Mm-hmm. The value you get from trading Christian Walker is some financial relief, and he'll no longer be standing at first base. And by the way, you'll then have to teach someone how to play first base.
Yeah, the value is pretty much making Isaac Paredes the first baseman.
Yes.
Which, like, honestly, like, okay.
As far as bats go, like, as far as just getting the bat in the lineup that I want that bat in the lineup as opposed to Walker.
Yeah, Correa being at third base, to me, it does feel like, I think Paredes is going to be the first baseman next year. Like, I think they're going to find some team that will take on Christian Walker for a nothing prospect, similar to the way that the Astros got Carlos Correa. You eat some of the money. Like, that, to me, think about the future of the Astros is probably, I think, the best approach.
I'll be the guy that goes, what if Yainer Diaz plays first base?
Be nice.
Yeah, what if he's not playing catcher? Yeah. Would be nice. So that's another, I guess, domino that you need to at least consider. Like we talked about the 2026 Astros and the makeup that they might have to have, or the makeover that they might have to have. One of those does include Yainer Diaz. Is he a solution at catcher, or can he go more of the, whether it's literally Victor Caratini or a Caratini type behind the plate to get that defense, get a little bit of a defensive edge there, and move Yainer to first base, or maybe just move Yainer somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my offseason hope for the Astros is that, based on what's happening in Baltimore, that they just paid a young player to come up and be their catcher while Adley Rutschman is hurt, while they just drafted another catcher, and it seems like Adley Rutschman is going to be available, who was once the most heralded prospect basically in all of baseball. I think he's still awesome. He's not a superstar player. He's very, very good behind the plate. I love his bat. I would love to see Adley Rutschman in Houston. That's like my pipe dream.
That's the MLB The Show trade that you're making?
Yeah, for sure. Especially because his ratings are still good in the game, unlike in real life.
And his switch hitter, Yainer and Christian Walker for Adley Rutschman.
Yeah,
there we go.
That fixes some problems. I mean, look, they could use a bunch of 4 or 5 guys in the back end of the rotation. They need help in Baltimore.
Yeah, there you go.
They need help.
John Rooney, pack your bag. I guess he's getting Tommy John.
Yeah, he's out.
I don't want to trade Jason Alexander. It's really hard to come up. It's really hard to come up with. He's the ace next year if they're trading Hunter Brown. It's really hard to come up with the back end starting rotation guys that would be in this trade as weird sweeteners that they would want, because
everyone's hurt.
A lot of those guys are getting Tommy John surgery, and that's again just another problem.
Well, Sean, we started this podcast off as you joined with a banger. Question if the Astros should blow everything up in the offseason, which means hopefully we're going to look very stupid and the Astros are going to get rid of
Normally how that works.
Yeah, which is why we did it for you. We are for the people, this podcast now. He's Sean Mapes. I'm Joe George. This episode's been brought to you by, as always, by Blue Star Tequila, the world's first and only night harvested tequila. It's right here. It's wonderful.
With how the Astros season is going, it might be a good time to buy a bottle.
Espresso martini. That's my wife's go-to with these things. That's what we're always going through with some tequila. And all right, you can find it near you at bluestartequila.com. We'll be back with you next week talking all things Houston Astros. Have a good one. Peace.